प्रोफेसर सामंतराय जातीय एवं अंतर्जातीय शिक्षाविद एवं छात्र मानक पई नियमित भाव में ऑनलाइन वेबिनार परिचालन करि आछंती। आमे आज प्रोफेसर सामंतराय ठारू अनेक किछि जानिबा टीचिंग लर्निंग टेस्टिंग एंड इवैल्यूएशन विषय इवैल्यूएशन रो विभिन्न दिग उपरे से हमको आलोचना करिवे। आसंतु सुनिबा तांको प्रोफेसर सामंतराय।
बहुत धन्यवाद डॉक्टर बाग।
नमस्कार।
Namaskar and good morning everyone. I'm so privileged to be invited to this national level discussion forum to discuss with you. My thanks to Dr. Sanjay Bag. First of all, he contacted with me to conduct this program, and then Dr. Pankaj Dwivedi ji, he also talked to me about this. I'm privileged to have been to get this honor by the National Testing Service, Government of India, and CIIL. I'm grateful to all of them and all of you for inviting me to this faculty development program. Thank you all very much. One issue is I'd like to conduct this discussion in English because I'm not used to academic discussion in Odia, though Odia is my mother tongue. No Odia खूब भल रे कहे आ खूब भल माने एकदम मोर किछि ओडिया रे कोनोसी असुविधा नै, किंतु academic discussion रे ओडिया रे करबाटा so सेति पय कि ए डिस्कशन को इंग्लिश रे रखियो चाहिए, किंतु आपण माने जा क्वेश्चन पचारिबे तार डिस्कशन जेदुर संभव आपण माने ओडिया रे पचारतु किछि असुविधा नै। आ डिस्कशन जेदुर संभव मु चेष्टा करबी ओडिया रे करिया पय कि क्वेश्चन रो आंसर गुडा, किंतु major part of my discussion will be in English because I'm used to using that language in the academic domain. सेति पय कि मते ओडिया रे कहला बेलकु टिके सब गुडा को टिके मते असुविधा हबो, से लागि मु इंग्लिश को चूज करछि। भाबुछि आपण माने किछि विशेष असुविधा सेतिरा हबो नाही। So let's start. As it's already been mentioned by Dr. Bag, Sanjay Bag, the topic of my discussion is teaching, learning, testing, and evaluation. So to me, it seemed to be one comprehensive whole where I thought I'll focus on the relationship between all the four areas that are included in the teaching, learning domain. So is my screen visible to all of you? Can you see my screen, everyone?
No, yes, ma'am. Yes, very much. Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
We are able to see.
Thank you very much. So whenever you have a question, please mention your question. Whenever you want some explanation, please ask it. Whenever you want to add something or you don't want to agree with something, please mention, because nobody has to agree with anyone. Because somebody says something, others have to agree. No, that's not how human brain functions. Human brain functions, moves, progresses by not agreeing. So if we agree to everything, our minds will not progress. So if you want to disagree with anything, please feel free to disagree also. So your questions, any explanations, any addition, any disagreement, the moment you think you want to raise the issue, please raise your hand and then we can take that up for discussion. So this is not going to be a one-way affair. I'll give a lecture and you'll listen to me silently. Please know, all of us will raise our voices, all of us will talk. This is a discussion session mainly. So when we look at the perspectives in education, these are the three areas. In fact, testing and evaluation, they are more or less quite similar, even if not exactly similar, but quite similar. Teaching, learning, and testing or evaluation. These are the three aspects of education that all of us agree. There has to be a teaching element, there has to be learning, and there has to be an evaluation of learning. And in my opinion, there has to be an evaluation of teaching also. So the new education policy, NEP 2020, it focuses a lot on the evaluation of teaching also. Now teachers will be evaluated more often than they used to be earlier. So as we evaluate learning, so there can be summative evaluation, there can be ongoing evaluation, there can be different types of evaluation. Teaching is going also to be evaluated in that manner. So evaluation is associated to teaching, is associated to learning, and evaluation, all of us understand its position. Now let's have some food for thought. Now, why do we teach? That's the very first question. Why do we teach? What is your answer? We are all teachers. We are all teachers.
Yes, madam. Teaching is a process by which
Now, please don't get into a description. Just say in one sentence, why do we teach? Because we are all teachers. Why do we teach?
the unexperienced, giving experience to unexperienced,
To
unexperienced children about his society, his
so
environment.
okay, so when children come to school, do you think their mind is like a blank slate? They have no experience?
No, madam, there is experience.
There is
But,
a lot of experience, yes. It's not, it's non-experience. There's a lot of experience.
So we have to give the idea, a concrete idea by which they will learn what is wrong, what is right. We have the experience, but the teacher is like just a torch bearer. We can show him this is the
Yes.
to learn.
Okay, okay. So this has been a very long-standing assumption by teachers that we are the torch bearers. In reality, we may not be torch bearers at all, because what happens with children, many times they do not learn a lot of things from us. They learn a lot of things from many different sources, many different contexts, many different situations from their own experience. Then where do we stand as teachers? What is the function of our teaching? That is the first question. Then as teachers, do we evaluate our teaching? If we do, how do we evaluate our teaching? How many of you actually evaluate your own teaching? Forget about external agencies, but how many of us evaluate our own teaching on an ongoing basis? What did I do today? What was my plan today for teaching? What did I do? How much did I achieve? What learning took place? What could not happen? How can I better myself? How do we evaluate ourselves? Do we evaluate our teaching? What is everyone's answer? What is everyone's answer? Do we evaluate ourselves?
Yes, madam. After every class, we are evaluating ourselves.
Okay,
So
how do you evaluate? What are the parameters of evaluation? Your parameters.
just we are using that
Not
pedagogy.
we.
Mhm.
Just talk about yourself.
Yes, yes. We are using so many pedagogies to teach different chapters.
Now, please
So we
tell
just
me, this is how I test my teaching. This is how I test my, just 1, 2, 3, 4 in points. Please don't get into description, because descriptions are available in books, in research,
yes,
in
yes.
discussion. Descriptions are available everywhere. What do I do to test my teaching? Do I do this? Do I do that? Do I do that? So what do I do? So in that
So
sense, what do you do? Just one point.
from
1 point.
from the feedbacks of students, I am evaluating.
I'm not. This doesn't sound very, I mean, concrete as a evaluation of my teaching. Forget students. How do you evaluate yourself?
Because we are planning some lesson, and that when we are teaching, we understand that what sort of
How,
justice
how, how, do, how do you understand? So these are questions we have to ask ourselves. If
Yes,
we
yes, yes.
actually, if we actually evaluate ourselves, we will frame a set of questions to ask ourselves.
Yes,
Did I plan my lesson in this manner or in that manner?
yes,
Does my lesson plan match with the learning outcome focus? Am I
yes,
aware of the learning outcomes? Do I know the learning outcomes for this class or for this week's 5 classes? What will
yes,
be the learning outcomes? So that is a testing, that is one evaluation for me. In my teaching, did I focus on the learning outcomes? And
yes,
what did I do? Yes, it's for everyone. It's not just for one person, for all of us. What did I do to ensure that the learning takes place so that the outcome is visible? What steps did I take in the past 1 week so that the learning outcome is visible from students' behavior? So these are concrete evaluation steps for my teaching. Now, if for this week I planned that my students will be able to, let's say, they'll be able to frame complete sentences using one verb, one concrete verb. So there are two objectives here: the sentence structure and the use of a concrete verb. So what did I do in my lesson plan? What practice did I give to my students so that they understood this, they could apply this, and their learning behavior is visible? So learning outcomes is the first thing. I must understand what learning outcomes must be there in my teaching. And if those learning outcomes went to my students with a lot of practice, with a lot of input, and they are able to exhibit the learning outcomes. That is one method of evaluating my teaching, one method of evaluating all of us, everyone's teaching. Then the question comes, which is more important, teaching or learning? What do you think? Which one is important?
both, both important.
Pathana pathana dita ek.
Both should go, sir.
Without
Okay.
learning,
Okay, do you think, okay, somebody is saying without learning? Yes, will you please complete that?
madam, without learning, I cannot give a concrete idea to the student. What is
Without
the-
learning or without teaching?
without learning by myself.
Okay. So you're learning. No, I'm talking about teaching from the teacher perspective and learning from the learner perspective. That's the focus of this question. Which one is more important, teaching or learning?
Both are important.
No, you cannot say both.
First learning,
Learning,
then
learning.
teaching.
Learning is very important.
Learning,
Learning, then teaching.
learning is more important. Okay, learning is more. Why do you think learning is more important than in comparison to teaching? Yes, most of you say learning is more, but why do you think learning
Because
is more?
teacher
Yes.
learns more from the students also.
No. It is learners learning. It's not teachers learning.
Madam, our aim is students to learn. So learning
Okay.
is important. Our
Okay.
aim is students to learn the topic what we are teaching.
Yes, of
Students
course,
to
yes.
learn. I
The
think learning is more important.
objective of teaching is to create learning for students. That is the objective. Therefore, learning is more important than teaching. Now, if we don't teach also, young children, adolescents and adults, they all learn. It's not that somebody has to teach. Somebody has to teach so that people will learn. That's not a completely true assumption. Teaching is necessary. Teaching is necessary. Nobody will say teaching is not necessary. But a lot of learning happens even outside teaching. Without teaching also, a lot of learning happens. So, And the objective of any teaching is learning. Therefore, learning is more important. So, what do we actually practice? What is our focus? Is teaching our focus or learning our focus? So, this is a question that we will keep in mind, and throughout the entire discussion, this question will come up time and again to get our attention. What do we actually practice as more important? What is our focus? Is teaching gets the more important focus, or learning gets the more important focus? Which one gets the more focus, which one gets more importance in actual practice? So this question will recur throughout the discussion. I'm not getting to one particular answer for this right way. Now let's look at learning. All of you have mentioned what learning is. Please read through this. The first one is from Merriam-Webster Dictionary, a standard standard dictionary in English, which gives this definition of learning. So please read. Definition is from Merriam-Webster Dictionary. Please read the first definition. Okay, if you finish reading, what is the process of learning? What is the activity that we can call learning? We can name as learning. What is this?
Studying, practicing.
No. These will come later. What is the activity or process of learning? What is it?
Internalizing. Ma'am.
Yes, internalizing knowledge or skill. If the knowledge or the skill is internalized, it becomes a habit. It becomes printed in the brain. That is learning. And how it is done? The process is given here. How it is done?
It is done by studying, practicing, teaching, and experiencing something.
Being taught or experiencing something. So being taught is one type of learning activity. As teachers, we teach and learners are being taught. So through this, they learn. But learning can also happen if learners study by themselves, learners practice certain skills by themselves, or the learners experience something. Would you agree with this, or you have a different opinion? Can somebody learn by reading books, by studying something, by doing something practically, or by experiencing something?
Yes.
Learning possible that way? In those using these kinds of, yes, learning is possible. So teaching is just one process that leads to learning. Teaching is not the whole process that leads to learning. Now, for example, you want to learn a new language. As adults, some of us love languages. So if I want to learn Chinese, it's not necessary that I have to find a Chinese teacher who will teach me Chinese, only then I'll learn Chinese. Is that the only method?
No, ma'am.
No. There are lots of ways of learning Chinese by my own. I can do that.
Self-learning.
Yes, that's true. Yes. So studying by oneself. The teacher is not an essential element in the learning process. Teacher is necessary, but not completely essential, without whom learning cannot happen.
Yes.
So if we have such kind of a notion in our mind, we have to get rid of that. We have to understand students learn in many different ways. They can study, they can practice certain skills. Now, children in villages, particularly, in cities also they might be having such kind of experience, but children in villages particularly, who teaches them to swim? Is there a swimming teacher for village children?
They learn there from
They learn on their own. They just
friends.
jump into the ponds
Yes, yes.
Gulp a number of times, what they gulp water a number of times, get breathless, and they learn. They say, "Slow down," and they learn.
Madam, here I can ask one question.
Let me finish. Yes,
Okay.
please raise your hand, and I'll get back to anyone who wants to ask a question. Yes, I'll get back to you. Let me finish. So this is experiential. This is learning by doing, learning by practicing on one's own. No teacher is necessary. And swimming is an essential skill in life. It's very important.
Yes.
Okay, so a teacher is not always essential. That is the point. Okay. Yes, Mr. Rath, please. Sujanaran Rathasar, please.
Yes, madam. Madam, actually, student can learn. Anyone can learn from the environment
Yeah.
and other things also. But who will the person to guide him or her? Because student can learn. There is, as like you can give an example that student can, the child can swim by doing yourself.
Please come to your point quickly. Such a long description is not necessary. What is your point, please?
My point is the guide is very necessary. If the teacher is a guide, so without guide, how can he or she learn what's the better for her or not better?
If you are talking about a systematic classroom curriculum, if you're talking about that only, that's a very narrow view of learning.
Like everything, in every aspect of our
Yeah,
life.
okay, so who teaches these very young village children to swim? That is also learning. Nobody teaches them. They learn by themselves. Now, teacher is necessary. I'm not saying teacher is absolutely redundant. Teacher is necessary for a particular system. But teacher is not an essential part of somebody's entire scope of learning. That is the point. I'm not saying teacher is not necessary. Teacher is necessary. In a school curriculum, in an educational domain, there is a necessity of teachers. But many students learn despite the teachers. There are many instances, many examples. If that if I get the scope, that is time to discuss that, we can discuss that. Otherwise, I can discuss in another seminar how children learn in school without teachers also. There's been lots of experiments, lots of research on how children learn many things without a teacher guiding them in the school circumstances. A lot of research has been conducted on that. But there is absolutely a necessity of a teacher in a school curriculum, in a school domain. That all of us will agree. But there are lots of things that everyone learns without a teacher also. The point of discussion is teacher is not an essential element in learning. A teacher is a necessary element in certain circumstances. That is the point. Okay, now look at the second point, please. Okay, finished reading? Oh, nature is the best teacher. Okay, that's also, I mean, yes, okay, but we'll have to go by evidence. We just cannot say things that we feel or our personal opinion. That's a little contentious. So learning is being able to function independently in new situations. What do you think of this? Learning is being able to function independently in new situations. What is your opinion on this? Yes? Dilip sir, yes. Sir, it's very difficult for me to explain in Odia. Nua situation re, nua gote area re, जदि जने जहाँ शिखिची सेटा को यूज करी पारची ताहले लर्निंग सेटा को लर्निंग बोली कुआ जिवो
Yes, madam.
Dilip sir, yes.
I,
I'm
I
sorry
think
about
it is,
it. No, Dilip sir.
Madam, actually,
No, please hold on. Dilip sir has raised his hand. Please
Yes,
hold
yes,
on.
madam.
I'll get back to everyone. Yes, Dilip sir, please. I'll get back to everyone. Dilip
Madam,
sir.
that is, yes, madam. That
Yes.
second point you that mentioned here, learning is being able to function independently in new situation.
Yes.
That it is little bit more clarity I require. So,
Okay.
what is the old situation where the situation learning was functioning?
Good.
Now, how can you go to the new situation? That old situation, new situation. Please, madam, please explain.
It's not a difference between old and new. The difference is between given and new. Now,
In
when we
the
teach,
situation, in a new situation, I want to know what is the new situation.
exactly, that's what I'm trying to explain. See, in a class, suppose somebody teaches mathematics. There are formulas. If somebody teaches algebra, there are formulas. And there are problems in the algebra book. There are problems. The teacher teaches the formula, teacher gives examples on the blackboard, and then teacher asks students to answer some of the questions in the class, and the rest are given as homework. Now, in the examination, the question on that particular section of algebra, does that occur from the book or it's a different question? Which is a good question? Is it a repetition from the algebra book algebra problem, or it's a new problem?
But maybe the similar.
No, that's not a good question, because if it is the same question, it's not a question of similar. It's a question of same or new. That's a question. Similar it will be similar. It will not be completely different.
It is similar only.
Because the same, I'm not talking about similar. Same question or a new question. So if the student has practiced all the problems in the algebra book, if the same question is given, what do we evaluate? We don't evaluate anything. A new question has to be given, so that with the teacher tests if the student has internalized the formula and applies it in a new situation, in a new problem. Now, suppose a young child in class 1 or 2 learns addition and subtraction. Addition and subtraction, these are the common, the first level work that a child does in mathematics in school, class 1, class 2, where whatever. So the child learns addition and subtraction in class. The child is very good at that. Then the mother says, you take 40 rupees, go to the market and buy X, Y, Z, A, B, C. What is this? Is this a new situation or the given situation? The given situation was in the class. This is a new situation.
Yes, yes.
If the child knows addition and subtraction, internalized addition and subtraction, the child will be able to find out if the shopkeeper has taken the right amount of money by addition. Sir, please mute yourself. Yes. Those who are not
Madam,
speaking. One
that
second.
child is.
Please hold on. Please hold on. See, let me complete. Then you can give your question or suggestion, whatever. If the child knows subtraction, the child will be able to calculate if the money the child gets back, the change the child gets back, is correct or not. So the second point, let me finish. You can ask any number of your questions. The second point is learning is being able to function independently. There is no one with the child. The child has gone to the market with 40 rupees. The child knows how to add and subtract in school. And this is a new situation, and the child is alone, independent. If the child can apply addition and subtraction, then the child has learned, internalized that. Okay, Dilip sir, you wanted to ask something more, and then Rajendra sir and some other people also. Kailash sir, all of you wanted to say. Dilip sir, please be quick, because people are.
Yes, madam. Madam, the child, whatever he learned in the classroom, that he is applying in this new situation. That is not learning. He is applying this all things what he has learned.
But that is the test of learning. If the child has
That is
learned,
testing. That is testing.
that is exactly what I'm saying. That is evidence that the child has learned. The
Yes,
child
that
is not
testing.
learning. I never mentioned that the child is learning that in the shop. It is a test that child has learned. The child has internalized. Learning has happened. That is the test.
Yes.
That's what the second point says, is able to function independently. Child is not learning. Learning has been done, but able to function independently in a new situation.
Okay.
That is the test of learning. That the child is,
what he had learned in past, he is using in the present situation.
okay. So,
Am I right, madam?
no, not, it can be in the present, future, anytime. It doesn't matter. It's not, the time is not a constraint. Can apply anytime. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow, maybe a month later, anytime. If the child can use, then we understand, yes, the learning has happened.
Yes, madam.
Now, suppose you teach Odia or English language. Now, there are texts and there are comprehension questions. Now, we teach a text. We tell students how to understand certain things in the text, how to answer the comprehension questions. Now, the child is traveling in a bus, and the child finds a English newspaper or an Odia newspaper and reads that, or a book and reads that. If the child can understand that, then the learning has happened. The child has internalized the process of comprehension. The long process of comprehension. Comprehension is not one step. Comprehension has several steps internally. So if we have taught the child to go through the comprehension process, first this, then this, then this, then this, then all together, all these things together in comprehension. We give practice in school with 5 or 10 texts in the textbook. That is the given. The child gets a new book, reads that, and is able to apply all these things that the child learned in school, and child can understand the new text. That shows that learning has happened and the child is being able to function independently in a new situation. That is the purpose of the second bullet. Okay, so if anyone has any questions, any suggestions, any comments, please. Okay, if not, we'll move to the third bullet. Please read the third bullet. Now, would you agree with the third bullet, or you won't agree? What do you say about the third one? Agree? Dilip sir, you are very quick. Okay, all right. Thank you. Okay, so toward others? Banaveri sir, yes?
No. Actually, teachers are facilitators for
Yes,
learning.
Yes, okay.
Students learn, but without the help of teacher, sometimes it is difficult.
Sometimes yes, sometimes difficult. But with the help of teachers, it also can become very difficult many times.
Yes. That is there.
we help so much because we are teachers. We have a lot of, we carry a huge conscience. I am a teacher.
Sometimes teachers are hindrance for.
ଆମେ ଏତେ କନସିଏନ୍ସସ୍ ଯେ ଆମେ ଏତେ ସପୋର୍ଟ ଦେବାକୁ ଚାହୁଁ କି ପିଲାକୁ ଆଉ ଏକୁଟିଆ କାମ କରିବାକୁ ଆମେ ଛାଡୁନି, ଆରେ ବାବା ଛୁଆଟା ପାରିବନି, so it becomes difficult for the child also. The child stops learning. Child becomes so dependent.
Yes, yes. I can give you example. हम लोग जब छोटे बच्चे थे, हमें छोटे
You
पिला थे
can
लोग.
speak in Odia. Yeah, Hindi is not necessary. My mother tongue is
Yes,
Odia. Odia ko to
yes,
please,
yes,
sir.
yes. Because I am living in Hindi being a state now,
Oh, okay.
so
Okay.
sometimes in my
Odia ବୁଝି ପାରୁଛୁ ନା?
हाँ yes ମଧ୍ୟପ୍ରଦେଶ ଆକ୍ଚୁଆଲି ଆମେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ପିଲା ଥିଲୁ ଆମେ ଛୋଟ ତୃତୀୟ ଚତୁର୍ଥରେ ଆମକୁ ଅଲ୍ ମାର୍କେଟିଂ ୱାର୍କ ଆମେ କରିପାରୁଥିଲୁ କିନ୍ତୁ ଆମେ ଦେଖୁଛୁ ଆମ ପିଲାମାନେ 11 12 ପଢିକି ମଧ୍ୟ କରିପାରୁନାହାନ୍ତି ଦ୍ୟାଟ ଇଜ
ସେଟା
ଦ
କାହାର
ହିଣ୍ଡ୍ରାନ୍ସ
ଦୋଷ ସାର୍? ସେଟା କାହାର ଦୋଷ ସାର୍? ବାପା
ଆମର
ମାଙ୍କର
ଆମର ଆମର ହିଁ ଦୋଷ
ଆମର ହିଁ ଦୋଷ। ଆମେ
ଆମେ
ସବୁବେଳେ ଛୁଆକୁ ପୁରା ସପୋର୍ଟ ଦେଇକି
ଓଭର
ରଖିବୁ।
ପ୍ରୋଟେକ୍ଟିଂ
ତୁ କିଛି କରନା ଆମେ ସବୁ କରିଦେବୁ। ତ ଛୁଆ
yes
ଅଛି
yes
ସେ ସିନା ଭୁଲ କରିବ, ପଢିବ, ଝୁଣ୍ଟିବ, ତାହେଲେ ଚାଲିବାକୁ ଶିଖିବ, କାମ
yes
କରିବାକୁ
yes
ଶିଖିବ। ଆମେ ତ
exactly
ସବୁବେଳେ କହିଲୁ ବାବାରେ ଧନରେ କିଛି କରନା, ଖାଲି ଆରାମରେ ବସ, ଆମେ ସବୁ କରିଦେବୁ। ସେ
yes
କଣ ଶିଖିବ? ଟିଚର ମାନଙ୍କର ବି ଆମ ମାନଙ୍କର ଅବସ୍ଥା ସେ। ଆମେ ସବୁବେଳେ ଆରେ ଛୁଆଟା କିଛି ଜାଣିନି, ଆମେ ଟିକେ ଆଉ ଟିକେ ବୁଝେଇ ଦଉ, ଆଉ ଟିକେ କରିଦଉ, ଆଉ ସପୋର୍ଟ।
spoon feeding
It does a lot of enormous amount of harm. It doesn't help. It doesn't support learning. ଛାଡ଼ିଦବା ପିଲାକୁ, ସେ ତାର ପଢୁ, ଝୁଣ୍ଟୁ, ଭୁଲ କରୁ, ଯେତେ ପର୍ଯ୍ୟନ୍ତ ଭୁଲ କରିବ ସେ ସେତେ ପର୍ଯ୍ୟନ୍ତ ଶିଖିବ। Because without making mistakes are the major part of learning. Without mistakes, there is no learning.
Sometimes small mistake by students we are very much worried and we are scolding that should not be there.
Okay. Please don't worry about mistakes. Mistakes
Yes,
are a
yes.
part of learning.
Yes,
Mistakes
yes.
are essential for learning. Okay, all right. So then we come to evaluation. Why do we evaluate? What's the purpose of evaluation? What are the objectives of evaluation?
What the child learned, he will express. He will express, and that expression will be the evaluation.
But what do we actually evaluate?
His learning.
What is that learning? Okay.
How much
So
he has learned.
Okay, the learning points. So the learning points.
Measure the learning points.
Learning points. So
Learning
before
points. We
teaching,
measure the learning point by evaluation. Yes, madam.
yes. Okay. All right. Okay. All right.
We
Thank you.
measure the student by measure the teaching by evaluation. Teaching point by evaluation.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Please, for me, the points are never teaching points, are all learning points. Because if you understand NEP 2020, teaching points no longer exist there. It is all learning points. Teacher has become completely secondary in the new education policy. So the primary focus is on learning. Madam Archana, madam, please mute kar diyantu. Background noises, mute kar diyantu. So learning points. What the learning points are? So students, learners, they must be made aware of the learning points. ଆଜି ଏଇ ପାଠ ପଢିବାକୁ ଅଛି, ଏଇ ପାଠରେ ଆମକୁ କଣ କଣ ପଏଣ୍ଟ ଶିଖିବାର ଅଛି, ଏଇ ପଏଣ୍ଟ ଗୁଡ଼ିକ ଆମକୁ ଶିଖିବାର ଅଛି। The teacher is aware and the teacher must make the learners aware of the learning points. Only then evaluation is valid. If the learners do not know what they are learning, then evaluation becomes invalid. Now, there was a massive operation on testing by NCERT some time ago, about 5 years ago. Massive in all India wide testing system for the entire India. And I was a part of that. Then I raised this basic question: do the learners know what they are learning? Do the learners know what they are tested for? We start the testing of evaluation operation to understand how much learning has happened. Does the learner know what the learner has to learn? So before we evaluate, we must make the learners aware that these are the points in your syllabus, in your textbook, that we are going to learn. So without making learners aware of the learning points, It is illogical to test them. Otherwise, that will be memory testing, which happens most of the time. That will be memory testing. They don't understand what they've learned. They have no idea of what they've learned. So every class, or if something is continuing for 2-3 classes also, the teacher must focus. These are the learning points, maybe 2 points, maybe 1 point, maybe 3 points. But that every class, the students must be made aware of the learning points. Otherwise, evaluation is just not valid. So we evaluate only when the learning points students have understood, they have practiced, we have given inputs in the form of our teaching, we have given inputs, and we have given a lot of practice. And then there is some kind of assessment in the class. Then we go to a final kind of testing or evaluation later. With students' awareness. They know we are supposed to learn these things. Then that learning is tested. Now the issue comes, who should be evaluated? Is it only the students who should be evaluated? Is that what you believe, that the students should be evaluated? Or the teachers? Also. Teachers also. Both, right, that's true. And why?
Because we should renew our knowledge every time.
That's a huge, very broad idea to talk about. But in very simple terms, we have to take equal responsibility. My responsibility and my students' responsibility are equal. I understand my responsibilities by focusing on the learning points. Students also understand their responsibility by focusing on the learning points. Now, just now, Bonvere sir gave a very good example, excellent example. That when we were children, we could do all kinds of work. Very well or not so well or in a bad manner, but we could do anything. Our parents used to ask us, do this, do that, right away. Yes. And we, without ever asking a question, we started doing those household chores. Get water, get some grocery, do this, do that, all kinds of things. Nobody taught us how to do, but we were expected to do everything. And now children are not able to do. So that is the problem with parenting. That's also the problem with teaching. We have to understand the learning focus. We also have to understand the teaching focus. So there is an evaluation, there is equal responsibility for teachers and for the students. Now, students cannot be not responsible for their learning. They have to be from the very beginning, from class 1, from the time they enter school, they have to take the responsibility of their learning. Teacher cannot teach and make learning happen if the students are not responsible. And how to make students responsible? By making them aware that these are the things that we are going to learn today. You know, these are the things you are going to learn. I'm giving inputs and I'm giving practice. You practice and you learn. If there are problems, I'm there to support you. That is what we call the facilitator's job. But you have to do things. It's your responsibility to learn. It's not my responsibility to make you learn. It's your entire responsibility. Yes, Kaya sir, you want to say something? Yes.
No, madam.
Okay, all right, fine. So that will lead to a responsive learning environment where students learn to respond to teaching. Now, what happens in our classes? In most classes, what happens? The teacher, most classes are teacher fronted. The teacher stands here and the students all sit in rows in front. The teacher comes and what does the teacher do? Generally, what do you people do? Please.
Teacher creates the situation of learning.
No, madam, please don't be vague. Please tell me, you go to class, you are ready for the teaching. What is the first thing that you do? We have learned to be vague for a very long time. Please don't be vague. So what is the first thing that you do?
We
You
should
should
learn,
wish.
Not should. What you have been teaching for a long time. What is the first thing that you do?
We should wish
No,
children.
please hold on. Now forget those wishing or all those socializing part. I'm talking of teaching. Teaching starts. What's the first thing that you do? Latika madam is saying something. Yes, Latika madam. What's the first thing that you do to start teaching?
we ask students about their previous learning.
Okay, so
After that,
Okay, so
yes.
revision and reinforcement.
Yes, madam.
Okay, if you are going to start a new topic, what do you do? And this is for everyone, not just for Latika madam, for everyone. Okay, for something that has been learned, revision and reinforcement. Yes, we start from there. If it's a new learning focus, what do you do?
We also doing same thing, asking about their previous knowledge of that topic.
Related to the new knowledge. Related to new knowledge, because
the past learning is the present. We will coordinate past learning is the present.
Okay, all right. That's right. That's good. Yes, that's right. Manini madam, you wanted to say something?
हाँ मैडम किसी पूर्व अनुभूति बा पृष्ठभूमि पिलांकु न्यू लेसन पाई मिल जीवा हमर कर्तव्य
नुआ मेथड किसी नहीं मैडम सब से
नुआ मेथड नहीं मैडम नुआ सिचुएशन को माने नुआ लेसन को
हाँ नुआ लर्निंग पॉइंट को नुआ लर्निंग
को पढेबा पूर्व पठित विषय रो बा किछि कहानी माध्यम रे किछि डायलॉग्स माध्यम रे
कोन माध्यम करछथि सेटा अलगा कथा से तो बहुत हजार प्रकार माध्यम अछि माध्यम दरकार नै हमर आमे कोन करे आमे पिलाकर किछि पूर्व एक्सपीरियंस सब जिंस अनुभूति अछि बहुत पूर्व अनुभूति अछि नुआ जिंस को एक्सेस करिया पई कि केमति भाबरे ताकू लगेबा हां जा कहले आपण ठीक सेटा आमे सेइटू आरंभ करे तेणु so we start to create a responsive learning environment. Responsive means where students start to respond to learning environment. आमे learning environment create करिया कहि देल त हबनी आमे learning environment ता कोन बुझिबा दरकार learning environment ता exactly केमिति step by step तयारी हबो सेटा मध्ये बुझिबा दरकार तो पिला को पुराना कथा से जा जानि छि बुझि छि पचारले से सेटा को रेस्पोंड कर परबो ताहले learning situation ता क्रिएट हबो खाली लर्निंग सिचुएशन क्रिएट करबा कहि देला तो सिचुएशन तयारी बेनी ताकू केमती करबा सेटा मध्ये भाबबाकू दरकार तेनु इफ वी रिलेट व्हाट द स्टूडेंट्स नो नाउ सपोज यू आर गोइंग टू टीच एक्शन वर्ब्स लेट्स से लाइक जंप ड्राइव रन एक्शन वर्ब्स so what kind of previous experience you can bring into the discussion to create the learning situation? They don't know these action verbs, let's say. Read, write, jump, dance, climb, swim. These are action verbs. You're going to teach action verbs today. What kind of previous experience you can relate to? There can be hundreds different things, not just one. Yes. So what kind of previous experience or what kind of experience do they have?
Yes, we should ask them.
No, should is different. What we actually do is different.
Yes.
So what kind of experiences do children have with relation to these action verbs? They are children.
So that all
time,
children are running.
Yes. All the time they are active, doing something.
Running.
They know action so well. So we have to relate their action to the present learning. Like what did you do after school yesterday? So there must be some action. What did you do? We played, we swam, we jumped. Some action. So we have to think of what happened? Archana madam, please mute yourself. Archana madam, कर दियंतु तो बहुत बैकग्राउंड नॉइज आछी आपण जति किछि कहिबे ताले अनम्यूट करंतु नले म्यूट करथांतु. Okay, so that creates a responsive situation. So we have to understand exactly what the learning point is. That is the primary focus. We have to understand. Then make students understand the learning focus. So this process must be very clear in our mind. And once we train students to understand the learning points, learning outcomes, they will ask, what are we going to learn today? Encourage them to ask, what are we going to learn?
Madam, Odia बुझांतु ठीक है. Please, madam, Odia बुझांतु madam.
बहुत कथा तो ओडिया रे बुझी परबिनी किछि किछि कहि दउची जेतले आपण गोटे जिंस पिला को ट्रेन करचंती इट्स अ काइंड ऑफ क्लासरूम मैनेजमेंट रो कथा गोटे सिचुएशन पिला गोटे नुवा जिंस आपण पढेबा को चाहउचंती आपण ता पिला को निजे आपण जानंती जे आपण कोन पढेबे कोन लर्निंग पॉइंट आपनकर अछि आपण जानंती किंतु जनरली टीचर माने सेही लर्निंग पॉइंट गुडा को पिला को ठीक भाबरे देई नथांती जनरली दैट इज अ जनरल ऑब्जर्वेशन किछि किछि जगह रे दिया हुए किछि लोक दियंती बेले बेले हमें भूली जाऊ बेले बेले हमें करताऊ किंतु वी मस्ट मेक इट अ प्रैक्टिस कि प्रति क्लास रे हमें लर्निंग पॉइंट कोन पिला को कहबा आ पिला को ट्रेनिंग मते दबा कि से हमकु पचारिबे आजि क्लास रे हमें एग्जैक्टली कोन लर्निंग हमर होबार अछि को पॉइंट हमर सिखबार अछि से माने मध्ये अवेयर रहबे कि एई जिंस गुडी आज क्लास रे हमको सिखबार अछि बा एई लेसन रे गोटे क्लास रे तो गोटे लेसन न सरी पारे सेटा 3-4टा क्लास गोटे वीक रो क्लास हेई पारे केतेटा क्लास रे हेई पारे तेनु एई लेसन रे हमर कोन लर्निंग पॉइंट्स अछि से माने पिला को एनकरेज करांतु कि से माने पचारंतु आपण भी कहंतु से माने पचारंतु ताले गोटे सेटा गोटे रेस्पोंसिव conducive situation for learning that will create conducive situation for learning सेटा ता द्वारा पिला मध्ये जानिबो जे तार रिस्पांसिबिलिटी अछि या नुय कि खाली माने टीचर आसीबे पढेबा टीचर कर सब दायित्व पास कले 100 रु 100 पिला पास कले टीचर बहुत पाइबे आ नहले नै टीचर बहुत खराब टीचर सेमती जिंस नुहे पिला मध्ये आमे पिला दिनरु क्लास 1 हेला होची जेबेटरु पिला स्कूल आछी सेबेटरु पिला को सिखेबा दरकार कि लर्निंग रिस्पांसिबिलिटी इज द चाइल्ड्स ताहले जाके आमे कहि परबा कि आमे फैसिलिटेटर जत्ते पर्यंत लर्निंग रिस्पांसिबिलिटी टीचर रो सेते पर्यंत टीचर फैसिलिटेटर नुहे जदि आमे पिला को 12 वर्ष जाय काखै करी बुलिबा पिला चाली परिबो कि एभे नुहे जदि पिला को आमे छाडी देबा से पढिबो झुंटिबो खंडिया हबो कांदिबो ताहले से चलीबा सिखिबो फैसिलिटेटर किए जे पिला को छाड़ी दे फैसिलिटेटर सी नुहे जे पिला को सब काखै थाए
that will be helicopter parenting that is known as
there are lots of names yes lots of names किंतु पिला को छाड़ी देले पिला सिखिबो पिला को भूल करिया को सहाय्य कले पिला सिखिबो सपोर्ट करबा हम पिला भूल करू ताल से सिखिबो ताले लर्निंग रो जहा इंटरप्रिटेशन लर्निंग रो आमे जहा बुझुचे पिला को मध्ये आमे सेटा बुझेबा दरकार ए पॉइंट करबा को सिखबा को अछि ए पॉइंट कला बेले जहा भी भूल करबो सेटा एक्सेप्टेबल किछि असुविधा नै भूल करो से माने मन रे स्ट्रांग रहबा दरकार कि से भूल करिवे हां सर मो आपण अछंती मानिनी मैडम अछंती मो आसुची आपण मान पाकू देखंतु आपण जेतळे पिला जेतळे खेलुची बा डेउची जहा करची से केमती का सब विभिन्न जिंस शीघ्र शीघ्र सिखुची बहुत शीघ्र सिखुची काहेकि ना ताकू कंस्ट्रेनिंग किछि जिंस नाही ताकू छाडी दे आउची तू भूल कर तू सीख किंतु क्लासरूम भीतर ताकू कंस्ट्रेन कर दे ताकू बन गोटे इनसाइड अ बाउंड्री द चाइल्ड हैज टू रिमेन इनसाइड अ टेरिटरी कि एई गुडा का भाव एमती भाबरे करिवा को हबो अलगा कले भूल एमती भाबरे करि परबिनी भूल कले पनिशमेंट भूलटा एक्सेप्टेबल नहो तेनु लर्निंग सेही सब समसैतिरे हुए नाही आ पिला भी रिस्पांसिबिलिटी नियनि पिला बाबा सर की मैडम तो भूल बाचचंती सर की माने अनकॉन्शियस माइंड तो पिला भाबेनी जे मु जहा करबी भूल हेले सर को दायित्व ठीक हेले सर को दायित्व मते कोन भाबार अछि मानिनी मैडम आपण कोन कहबा को चाहथले प्लीज
हाँ मैडम जेतेबेले आमे क्लास रे पढ़ेबू पढ़ेबा पूर्वरु पिलांकु कहबा उचित कि आज कोन कोन शिक्षा जाउची ना शेष रे समान के पचारिबू आज कोन कोन शिखिलो
मैडम जदि मु एबे सबुतक करि सारला परे आपन को कहबी कि आज आमे टीचिंग लर्निंग इवैल्यूएशन ऊपर कले सेटा आपन को पई कि भलो ना मु आगे कहली आज टीचिंग लर्निंग इवैल्यूएशन ऊपर काम करबा सेटा आपन को बेसी प्रिपेयर्ड कला जिनसटा बुझिया पई कि कोटा आपन पई भलो
मैडम पूर्व दी जे किंतु जो लिसनिंग स्किल का हमें लास्ट रे जानबा पिला
ना 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 लिसनिंग का पूरा पूरी अलगा जिंस टीचिंग ऑब्जेक्टिव पूरा पूरी अलगा जिंस
ताले मूलरु कहबा उचित
आपण निजे कहंतु मैडम कोटा आपण पई भलो पिला कथा छाड़ दियंतु पृथ्वी संसार कथा छाड़ दियंतु आपण को लागि आज कोटा भलो ए जो टीचिंग लर्निंग इवैल्यूएशन हमें आगुरु आरंभ कले आज ए विषय रे हम डिस्कशन करबा एटा भलो ना सब कोडा का डिस्कशन कर सारला परे पछरे मु कहितांती आज हम टीचिंग लर्निंग इवैल्यूएशन ऊपर डिस्कशन करले कोटा माने आपनकर मुंड को प्रिपेयर करिया को आपनकर मुंड को एक्सेप्ट करिया को बेटर आपन को पई कोटा बेटर
आगो काजे किंतु मैडम सिंती पढिले पिला जो उत्कंठार सहित पढिबा कथा
ना ना आपण मैडम गोटे गोटे जिंस आगे रिजर्व करंतु कोटा आपण पई भलो पिलांक त छाडंतु आपण पई कोटा भलो सेटा कोंतु पिलांक बाकू जानतुनी आपण पई कोटा भलो आगे हबा तो जदि मो पई कि गोटे जिंस भलो ताले अन्य मानक पई सेटा खराब पई कि हबो आम एटीट्यूड भी हमको बदलवा पड़ो ना से अनुसार जोटा मो पई भलो सेटा समस्त पई भलो मु जदि आगे जानिबि जे मते एया करिवार अछि ताले मोर गोटे मेंटल प्रिपेयर्डनेस हबो कि मते एया ही करिवार अछि मते एया जिंस विषय रे ही भाबिबाकू ट्राई करिबाकू काम करिबाकू प्रैक्टिस करिबाकू ए जिंस गुडी को मते करिवार अछि तो मते मोर गोटे मेंटल प्रिपेयर्डनेस सेट पई हबो तेणु आगुरु जणै देले सेटा सब बेले बेटर पिला पई कि आ बड़ मनस समस्त पई कि खाली पाठ रे नुई कि स्कूल रे नुई आपण जे कोनसी काम करंतु आपण जदि आगुरु जानिबे जे मते एया करिवार अछि आपण बेटर प्रिपेयर्ड हेबे आपण जदि रैंडमली गोटे जिंस आरंभ कले तार कोनसी जानि नांती आगरे कोन अछि कि पछरे कोठी एंड हबो ताले केमति आपण सेटा ठीक भाबरे करि परिबे सूर्यनारायण सर कोंतु आपण कोन कहउतले
मैडम एक्चुअली माने लोअर क्लास रे माने क्लास 8 हैला 7 हैला 9 क्लास हैला हमें जते बेले अछि रिस्पांसिबिलिटी कथा कहू स्टूडेंट रा जे कोनसी आलोचना कला बेले मन कर गोटे कपटे पढ़ा अछि तार प्रीवियस तार जो रिलेट करिया कथा सेटा कला बेले सिमान जो आग्रहता देखौछथि वर्तमान ऑनलाइन सिचुएशन रे 10th क्लास
सर आज ऑनलाइन तो मु कहि परिबेनी आई एम सॉरी काहे कि ना मोर स्कोप भी सेटा नाही माने स्कोप फोकस्ड आज स्कोप
ऑनलाइन के खाली जे 10th क्लास पिला काहे कि होची ऑनलाइन छाड़ दियन जे 10th क्लास पिला काहे कि होची माने ई करंती शेयर करंती माने समस्त शेयर करंती से दी चार पिला पांच पिला
कौन शेयर करंती
माने जो हमें तो लिंक करो जे होची प्रीवियस टॉपिक सहित बा प्रीवियस नॉलेज
तार सा टेक्निक अछि केमिति समझ करबे तार
मैडम टिके
सेटा मोर स्कोप भीतर नाही सर सॉरी सेटा को मु कहि परिबिन सेटा कहला माने मोर जतकी जिंस अछि मु तो देखुची तार माने 1/10 भी सरीबनी मु जतकी करथिल माने जो मेजर थ्रस्ट को मु आसीने पर्यंत ओके एबा पेरिफेरी रे रहिछि तेनो सॉरी आपण सेटा जदी कहबे सेटा तो अलगा तार से जो सेटा होची आपनकर मेथोडोलॉजी ऊपर आसुची मोर मेथोडोलॉजी ऊपर करिवार नाही जदि कहिबे मते संजय सर आउ केबे कहबे मु मेथोडोलॉजी ऊपर भी आपन को कहबा को राज्य अछि आपन जो जिंस कहबे मुरा क्वेश्चन करछंती जे सेटा काहे कि होनी ता सेटा कोटे मेथोडोलॉजिकल इश्यू क्लासरूम रो जदि मते आउ केतळे आपन मानक संगे प्रिविलेज हुए माने डिस्कशन करिवार आई विल डेफिनेटली टॉक ऑन दैट okay so getting back to our discussion okay I'm not going into all these details now what this is something that I need to talk now curriculum learning and evaluation it's a process it's a never ending process it's a continuous cycle it runs in cycle learning is never ending and evaluation is never ending learning influences evaluation influences learning again learning influences evaluation and evaluation influences learning this goes in a cycle So when we think about, because teaching is a part of learning, because learning is larger, teaching comes inside that. So teaching is a part of learning. So curriculum, teaching and learning, they all go together. And then on the basis of what has been learned, what the learner has understood to have learned, evaluation happens. And evaluation measures, like many of you have already mentioned, evaluation measures what has been learned. So there must be a match between the learning points, learning expectations, and the learner must know what the learning points and learning expectations are from their side. They must be responsible for that. And only then when evaluation happens, they understand, yes, evaluation matches with what they understood as their learning points. Then if learning has not happened completely, evaluation will tell us how much learning has happened. What are the gaps in learning? Then again, we go back to learning. We move forward to learning. Both go back and move forward to learning. Again, we teach something, we focus on some learning points that have not been internalized appropriately. We do that once again. And we progress on the basis of that, we move forward. Again, leading to evaluation. So this process is continuous. There is a clear relationship between teaching, between curriculum, teaching, learning, and evaluation. Each influences the other. Each is controlled by the other. So they are not independent processes. So we have to understand the internal dependence between curriculum, teaching and learning and evaluation. What is the internal connection? What is the internal dependence among all these things? And at every point, it's absolutely important that the learner must understand the learning points, the learning process, and the learning outcomes. We have to make sure that the learner understands, otherwise evaluation is invalid, illogical. Okay, having said that, this is probably the last thing that I'll be able to discuss. I'm not sure if you have heard of Bloom's taxonomy. Anyone who's heard of Bloom's taxonomy? Okay, if you haven't, doesn't matter, but this is coming in a, yes, okay, all right, good. Yes.
Yes, we have taxonomy, madam.
Bloom's taxonomy. Yes. Okay, if you know that, that's fine. But the issue is how much of that do we actually apply in curriculum, in learning, and in evaluation. That's the last issue that we are going to discuss, because Bloom's taxonomy, the revised one, of course, not the original, the revised one, that is coming in a big way into NEP 2020. So all of us must be completely aware of Bloom's taxonomy. So this is the revised version. When Bloom proposed this taxonomy, that was in 1956, but that shaped the structure of education. Bloom's taxonomy 1956, that shaped the structure of education as a whole. And he had given this pyramid structure, starting from remember, understand, and going up. This, of course, create and evaluate. These are new terminology in the revised Bloom's taxonomy, which came in 2001 by Anderson. This is the revised Bloom's taxonomy, but the original is included here, and the original Bloom's taxonomy, analyze, apply, understand, remember, they are intact. The top two have been revised a little bit. Now, what happens in most learning situations? Which level is attained the maximum according to you? There are 6 levels: remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. Which level is applied the most in the learning situations? Yes, we are running out of time. We just have about 9 minutes to go. Which one is applied the most?
Remembering, madam? To remember something?
Yes, to remember and to reproduce. Memory work.
memory.
Yes, somebody mentioned apply, but how much of application actually happens? How much of application really happens? It's mostly understand what I explain. I'm the teacher. I have the responsibility of explaining everything. I'll explain what is the meaning of these vocabulary items, what is the meaning of this, or what meaning do these sentences carry, what is the meaning of the whole text. So I explain everything. I'm the teacher. I have the responsibility of explaining everything. So I explain everything. I believe that students have understood because I have explained to the best of my ability. But understanding doesn't happen that way. Student's mind is not like a post box that I push my explanation in one direction and it gets there. And when it is required, it comes out of exactly what I have given as input. It's not that at all. That was a very old theory of learning, behavioristic theory of learning, that whatever is given is understood and absorbed. Human mind does not function in that manner. Human mind functions with a lot of aberrations, lot of issues. So if I explain as a teacher everything, understanding, some amount of understanding may happen, but not all understanding. Then what the system depends on how much the student remembers, the memory load. And then in the exams, the kinds of questions that come, they are related to memory, remembering. They remember, they reproduce, and what happens as a result? Forget. Because memory is limited, the capacity of the brain to remember things is limited. Short-term memory, what we call, that is limited. So they remember for the purpose of exam, they reproduce, recall and reproduce, and the moment that is over, the memory load is shed. ଆଉ ମନେ ରଖିବା ଦରକାର ନାହିଁ।
Yes, yes.
ଆପଣ କୋଉ ବି କ୍ଲାସ୍ 8 ପିଲାକୁ କହନ୍ତୁ କ୍ଲାସ୍ 6 ର କେତେ ଜିନିଷ ମନେ ରଖିଛି। କୋଉ ବି କ୍ଲାସ୍ 8 ପିଲାକୁ ପଚାରନ୍ତୁ କ୍ଲାସ୍ 6 କ୍ଲାସ୍ 5 ର କେତେ ଜିନିଷ ସେ ମନେ ରଖିଛି। କୋଉ କ୍ଲାସ୍ 10 ପିଲାକୁ କୁହନ୍ତୁ କ୍ଲାସ୍ 8 ର କେତେ ଜିନିଷ ସେ ମନେ ରଖିଛି। It's difficult. Human brain is not just functional that way. No human brain functions that way. So Bloom has understood the way human brain functions. He was a psychologist, he was an educationist, he was a theorist. So he has divided human ability to 6 different levels. This is of course the revised version that I've given, not the original one. This is the 2001 revised Bloom's taxonomy. They still call the Bloom's taxonomy. So the 3 levels lower, remember and understand, that are the lowest level of activity in learning. Not much learning happens here. Then application is in between. Some amount of learning happens if application is there. There is a formula, that formula is applied again and again, then some learning is retained, it goes to long-term memory. These 3 are higher level: analyze, evaluate, and create. If there is a problem that is completely new and the child analyzes the parts of the problem and tries to use different solutions, some solutions will be unfavorable, some solutions will be failures, and some solutions will be successful. So analysis is a higher level activity for learning to be retained in somebody's memory. Evaluation again, if somebody, there is a position in a book, in a text, there is a position, somebody gives an opinion. Then students are asked to judge that opinion, not to accept that opinion. That is evaluation. That is one example of evaluation. It is not the testing that we talk about. It is evaluation of the given. How much what is given is justified, how this can be modified, what are the arguments for this and against this. That is evaluation of what is given in the curriculum. Then creating something completely new or original. That is the highest level of human ability. That's the highest level in learning. If somebody has learned something and is able to create something new, then that is the new level. That is the real learning that has happened, highest level of learning. So these are to be used from in NEP 2020. These are to be used, not so much the lower order, which we call the lots, lower order thinking. And these are the HOTS, the higher order thinking. So more emphasis now, and it should have been always on the higher level, not the entire focus on the lower level or the lots, lower level thinking. But these are important. It's not that remember and understand are not important. They're very important. But learning should not be only there. Neither is testing should be only there. We must take learners in this journey to go to the level of creating, so that when they are tested, they can also be tested for all these levels. Okay, so I just rushed through this. So sorry about that. This should create a lot of questions in your mind. How to apply, what to do, why this, why that, why not this, why not that. Okay, so these are all questions. Okay, but my time is up. Thank you all very